the long period of the 15 or so months that we've been researching, finding out things, etc., digging, it has paid off, and we're now in the implementation phase, and all is going well. So from the area of sports, for example, we are doing all that is necessary to get Carifta 2024 to be a big success in Grenada, hosted. The tracks relaying is well on the way. We have signed the contract. We've paid 50% of the quantum to the contractor. It's costing Grenada US 1.6 million to relay the stadium track. It includes also the warm-up track outside of the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. So both the inside track and the outside warm-up track will be relayed to standards. The contractor is Banon Sports. It's the world-leading sports track relaying company in the world. And we expect to have a very high-quality track when it is completed. So expect records to be broken. We're looking forward to Carifta 2024.
That's great. Quick question for you there. What is going to happen with the old track once it's lifted up?
Well, it would be removed. I think the good thing is that we do not have to do major subsurface work. Essentially, it's just the track itself, the old one. So it's just to discard and to relay new, higher quality track. So that's the good thing there.
Or maybe it could probably go to some constituency somewhere, so you can practice on the old one, so to speak.
Right. Well, I have to look into whether or not that could be achieved, but definitely any option that might be available to extend its usefulness, we can consider.
Absolutely. But anyhow, proceed with respect to your
So definitely. And then also we have the National Cricket Stadium, which will cost us US $11 million. This is being funded through the kind compliments of the People's Republic of China. And that project, we did have some minor delays, but I can safely say that we're in a phase where we expect any time from now things to commence in full. The issue had to do with the question of this hosting of the cricket match, and then also the upcoming independence celebrations. By and large, I think all of that has been sorted out. All of the tenants, they were relocated, and we now stand ready to have full-scale operations. Again, in both instances, the cricket and the independence, the contractors there will cease and allow for the events to take place. So we do have that understanding, and we expect work to start in earnest very shortly.
Great. Well, I'm happy to hear that the stadium contract has been signed and work will start, because you could see the serious deterioration taking place there, especially with the steelworks.
Of course.
And that should have been done many years ago.
Many years ago.
And would there be a program in place now of regular maintenance to avoid that situation?
So Brother Terry, you're raising the most important point. The first meeting I had as minister responsible for sports with the ambassador, this was raised. And so what we can be assured of is that this time we're going to get the manual for the stadium in Mandarin, so that any maintenance work that has to be done on it, the contractors locally will have the capacity even just to read it. Secondly, we will get some level of information and training as to what we can use to treat the metal, which is largely used throughout the stadium in terms of its own support base and the exterior as well. So that has already been discussed, and it's something that we are interested to pursue even deeper. The whole question of skills and broadening that to empower local people to have the capacity to do that, so that we do not need to outsource every time there's a problem, and we can have a regular maintenance around the national stadium. So that has already been discussed, and we are making plans to fill that void after the completion.
Well, that's great. Our thanks and appreciation to the Chinese government.
Definitely.
And indeed, so the manual will now be in English, converted from Mandarin to English.
Yes.
Great. Well, hopefully you can build some capacity among our young people in maintaining the stadium on a regular basis.
Definitely. And Terry, just to update as well, from the area of sports, aside from all of the ministry's activities, you have the Star Malt football competition, cricket, volleyball, etc. We are also currently upgrading a number of playing facilities. We started with the Roy St. John grounds, Tantine. We are in the process of completing the erection of the lights, so that is going very well. Give or take, we did have some delays, and we're also attempting to solve the drainage issue to upgrade the quality of the outfield. We will, in time, complete the resurfacing of the sand pit, so that long jump, etc., could be had. The intention is that since the stadium would be out temporarily until March, well, the end of February, March, is that we would have alternative venues for schools to host their games, in a good environment. So we are planning, and in a nutshell, trying to say that we want to preempt any potential challenges. The other good thing that we have done was to call around schools and mobilize the information around when they are hosting their sports meet, so that we could be able to manage the proper distribution of the usage of the scarce facilities, given the fact that the stadium is going to be out. So that is going well, Terry, and we are satisfied that we mean business this time around. In the upcoming budget, the public and by and large stakeholders in sports can expect some wonderful pronouncements, and can expect the ministry over the next number of months to implement in full some progressive agenda or policies rather to move sports forward in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
Great, wonderful. So much for sports. How are we doing with the Department of Youth?
All right. Well, the Department of Youth, I didn't come prepared to speak to it today. However,
Well,
what I would
youth,
say,
so you're good to go.
yes, definitely. Aside from the auditing that we have completed on all of the government youth programs, so just to state to the public that we've completed that internal audit, and we are satisfied that a vast majority of the programs need some desperate upgrading. And for the upcoming budget, we have factored those in. Something as simple as hiring a grant writer at the Department of Youth, so that grant funding that is available there to drive youth development, we're going to be able to get access to that. So having a dedicated person hired to do that. From the programs, we have some excellent news that we are going to be announcing. And I don't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet, because I think the Minister of Finance is well placed to deliver the budget speech in the coming weeks. And as such, first week in December. And as such, I wouldn't want to preempt what he is expected to say. But just to say that we have taken a new look at the Imani program, and the trainees themselves are now going to benefit from quote-unquote transformation.
Great.
So we're looking forward to announce this in full and operationalize it certainly January, February, March, at least in the first quarter of 2024. So we expect next year to be a wonderful year. And while we are doing this, we have identified the major concern among youth is the question of the unemployment. In fact, the recent Labour Force survey numbers suggest that youth unemployment is around 34-36%.
Just among the youth population.
Right, just among the youth population. Right. The actual figure for total unemployment is down to 11% from about 16.6%. Right?
Great.
From 2021. So the economy is moving in the right direction. But what it did identify as well is the tremendous mismatch of the skills, which we spoke to, the question of the functional literacy. So one of the things that we have done as a pilot in the Division of Youth or Department of Youth is to embark upon getting the private sector involved in assisting quote-unquote young people or trainees in the right direction to get a job. So what we have done is to boost their capacity to write a proper job application and to go to an interview to land the job. The private sector themselves, they have identified this is the single biggest concern for them, that many of the young people who come for job interviews are a lot left to be desired. They do have qualifications, they do meet the minimum requirements, but when doing the interviews and even just conducting a simple interview, they are unable to do so. And that is a functional problem. So what we have identified is that you can actually train someone in 2 days along those lines and have them improved for life in terms of being able to land a job. Because our young people are bright. They do have the qualifications, but the sticking point for them is getting access now to land a job. So we have identified that. And government's prerogative is to create the enabling environment for the private sector to hire. not the government to be the chief hiring body, right? For the private sector to lead the economic growth. And so in that stead, we are going very well. The other thing that we're doing is to introduce the job fairs, mobilizing private sector who may have interest or demands rather, where they would want to see labor supplied. So that is going essentially well. More private sector business is expressing the need to want to join, and we are looking forward to that. We expect, Terry, in the coming year, next year to be exact, to launch 2 new programs. One will be along the lines called Youth Tech, young people in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, that sort of thing. And going into the whole question of coding that is currently being embarked on from the Ministry of Education, that will feed into now a youth program. And also along the lines of agriculture. We do have a youth in agriculture program currently being piloted by the Ministry of Agriculture. However, we have been looking at Trinidad and Tobago and their model, a version of a youth program, and trying to see how we can twin not just the basic components of training, but to get more young people interested in agriculture in its more productive capacity. They want to own land, that sort of thing, who have good business ideas and want to just expand in a good way, and utilizing aquaponics and some of the more modern techniques. So that is going well again. And as I said, overall, the major concern for us right now is the youth unemployment, and we have taken steps to tackle that. The access to education, free tuition, is going to play a major role. The Ministry of Economic Development has already identified that as an excellent policy that will be able to, over a 3 to 4 year period, help to reduce the unemployment rate. But there are other initiatives that we will announce in the coming months that will be able to bring us towards that measure of reducing the youth unemployment in Grenada.
Well, that is real great news indeed, and I am heartened to hear of your grant writer within the ministry.
Yes.
Because this is something that, in my opinion, I believe all ministries probably need. And we need to encourage Grenadians to get into that sphere of learning.
Yes.
Being able to be a professional grant writer. It's a particular skill that we are so badly lacking in.
Definitely, and there are a lot of resources out there, and the strategy behind it is so that we can grow our budgets, so that even if from central government standpoint, we may not be able to get the millions per se, but the intention is you can get access to way more than you can get internally from your own budget, and that is the direction. Again, it took us just around 9 months to observe deficits in the ministry, and now we are taking practical steps to fill that void. So it's going well so far.
Because, it's important for listeners to understand that over the past almost year and a half, it was almost like taking an internal audit of every ministry and determining where things are and what needed to be done and so forth. And I mean, that is great. If you want to move forward, sometimes you have to reverse a little bit to make sure the traffic behind is clear.
Definitely.
So you can do a thorough assessment and moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
But in the having said that, I mean, so much has been accomplished within this just about a year and a half.
Definitely.
I mean, parents are heartened by the fact that they no longer have to pay $810 to TAMCC.
Of course.
And other learning institutions.
It's a big reduction when you take it into consideration with the hardship that anybody, family or otherwise, would be facing to be able to acquire higher education. So going in that direction means that more opportunities eventually will open up for more families and their members.
Absolutely. So in other words, no parent would be able to say that they can't afford to send their children to school because of X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
I understand even the monies that are being paid in school for lunches.
Yes.
Even that the government is considering to waive.
Definitely.
So you're getting transport for your kid. You're getting school uniform for your kid.
Yes.
The tuition fees are being paid. And now removal of lunch money. In other words, you have absolutely no excuse whatsoever to keep your child at home for any reason whatsoever. This is magnificent.
Definitely, and all of that is a part of the administration's own policy agenda to engineer universal education.
Absolutely.
Because the critical point for us now, in order to tackle poverty and unemployment, is to have greater access to education. And so the whole concept of nutrition, I mean, it might look as just $1, $1.50 for the lunches, but nutrition and access to quality nutrition feeds into the brain of any student and goes a long way in helping them to be able to go throughout the day and learn and retain information. So that is critical on our part, and we have taken steps and will do so in the coming budget presentation and in coming year.
That's great. Well, just to make a little plug on that particular scenario, the Office of Diaspora Affairs is advancing speedily in the international community to seek donor funds for the Adopt a School program.
Right.
And so far, there's a lot of interest being generated. People, Grenadians, non-Grenadians, all excited about making contributions, financial and otherwise, towards that program.
And that's a positive step, Brother Terry. And let me commend the office, because I think too often we have relegated in the past to the old politics of partisanship and just brango and old talk and you know, propaganda. And for the first time in a long time, Grenada is actually focusing on where it needs to go. We are about to celebrate 50 years next year, and therefore we need to show some maturity, both politically and from an economic standpoint. And so the strides that are being made, I mean, Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister are certainly on trips trying to rally for Grenada in healthcare, agriculture, ICT, and the tremendous support that we are getting from the international community, Terry, is something that we are very heartened by, and certainly we intend to make use of in a very positive and impactful way in the lives of all Grenadians, Caracunians, and Petit Martiniquans.
Yeah, well, let me just add to what you just said, that the accusations being placed out there that Prime Minister and others are traveling. There's an old saying in Grenada: if crab don't walk, crab don't eat. You got to come out of your hole and go and find resources.
Definitely.
And, you know, it's great. Imagine under a year and a half, you're able to land $100 million from the Saudis.
That's the point.
At a 1.5% interest
Highly
rate.
concessional.
Plus a 7-year
Grace period.
moratorium, grace period. You don't have to pay. Over 25 years. I mean, this is almost like a miracle in its making.
Correct. And I mean, with not wanting to get too philosophical on the matter, this is the difference that the country was requiring and was actually lacking. The lack, Terry, of the vision and foresight to move things forward on behalf of Grenadians and Grenada, not self-interest. I think the beauty of now is that we do have politicians who are young, but not inexperienced. Because I could tell you, to be able to treat with a situation coming in, taking over from someone who they touted as the longest serving and had all the control, and to still be able to push your agenda through and deal with all the matters, one by one, knock them down. I think this is something highly commendable. But in life, you mustn't blow your own trumpet. I think we will let the people continue to do the talking, and we will continue to do the acting and doing the work that is required to move Grenada forward.
It's necessary to do the work and let others see the results of your work, but it's also equally important to speak about your work.
This is where PR comes in.
because I find that not enough is being said as to what was inherited.
Right.
And it's important that the people understand
the
inheritance historical background.
Yeah.
And hence the reason why it has, let's say, taken just over a year just to analyze things, do your internal audit, and now move forward.
And definitely.
So I'm sure during the budget there will be some rather interesting comments and statements and proclamations being made by Prime Minister and his cabinet.
There
So look forward to that. It's on the 4th of December.
4th of December.
Right, that's the budget presentation, 4th of December, 10 o'clock. So the public is invited to come on out on the 4th of December to hear the presentation of the budget.
Definitely.
While on that note, let us quickly zoom into the issue of the opposition boycotting the recent sitting to discuss the budget.
Right, the finance committee meeting. Well,
Exactly.
essentially, the leader of government business, the finance minister, who's the chair of the finance committee, and prime minister, they hosted a press conference the very afternoon when a release statement was sent out, citing the fact, one, that the information was sent about 7 days in advance, notice for the meeting. The standing orders only requires it to be sent in 48 hours, right? No less than 48 hours minimum. And so we did submit it in accordance to the normal practice you will do for any sitting, 7 days in advance. So that was done. Two, all of the documents were made available to all members at the same time. No one had the that's the amendments that were made to the original budget draft. No one had that amendments until it was sent for the finance committee. So this was a final version that will go to the finance committee for, in a sense, ratification. I was listening part of a program earlier on this morning, and the perception was that it's rubber stamp, but I do not see it as rubber stamp, because in that discussion, both opposition and government gets to state their position on various things. And even if the opposition might be aggrieved by a particular allocation, it doesn't mean that it may change, nor does it mean that it will stay the same. So it's the potential to change. So the discourse is important. Thirdly, I really do not know if what the opposition said, if they believe it, the members. And I'll tell you why I said so. And probably I'll start off with a joke. A hangover at 77 is not an easy thing to deal with. All right, so I'll give you a little joke to go into the message.
All right, okay.
Because the purpose used to boycott suggests to me that you're playing games, and clearly. And I could tell you, Terry, that the real reason why the opposition is staying away is because in this upcoming budget, the government of Grenada, through the Minister of Finance, will make a particular pronouncement, which, as we see it, will help to stem the tide away from politicians complaining that they don't have resources to do things in the constituency, and will help to limit the question of quote-unquote corruption in political life for a member of parliament. And the opposition does not want to appear to join in this call because they want to continue to sing this song, their tagline, poor and vulnerable, over and over and over again, and will make the case that the resources should go to the poor and vulnerable. That's what they are aiming to do. So they are staying away, boycotting, to then go to the public to say, well, we had absolutely no stake in this. But the reality is, behind the scenes, that is something that they themselves have been clamoring for repeatedly. And this time is going to be announced. So again, I don't want to steal the thunder of the finance minister, but that will be announced. Again, continue to say to the public, join in the discussion for the budget announcement and listen to the facts.
But in the press release by the opposition leader or the opposition party, the one would have thought that it's an issue of the opposition leader himself and his inability to attend the meeting.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself the question whether if all members of the opposition had equal and similar challenge.
Correct. Because
why didn't the others show up?
Because the statement essentially said that the member was unable to. Again, not giving any credence as to why. In addition to that, as I said, the fact is, the night before was the member's birthday. So obviously he was partying, as he doing Congo line, calling people all sorts of names, etc. And that's why I said what I said earlier on. So better an individual had come clean and say, can't make it because
yeah,
well, you don't say no.
I was wondering why you used that term.
Right.
Now I see
I'm not drawing the connection. Right. So essentially, it's just to say that we have to be serious. And as Prime Minister said, the Parliament is serious business. We volunteered for this job and we were voted in. And therefore, excuses like that to come to try to blame somebody else why you can't attend is, in my view, totally unwarranted. and speaks to the lack of how they see the people's credibility in understanding the political situation in the country. And so I, as a member of parliament in the lower house, I'm offended by the attempt to try to bring the house and its procedures into disrepute, just to pretend that you had some major concern and for you boycotting was the best option because the government XYZ is not willing to give you time. That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, it's most unfortunate because the standing orders are clear. The government side gives 48 hours minimum.
Definitely.
You got 7 days notice.
7 days, yeah.
You send a press release saying you can't make it,
Yeah.
and almost like everybody else therefore can't make it
Right.
from my side.
Right.
That was most unfortunate because Parliament is the highest decision-making body of laws in the land.
Correct.
And to disrespect it like that does not say very much for
Don't
you
speak well.
being the father of the house, so to speak.
Definitely, it doesn't speak well.
So tell me what therefore is the way forward now?
No, well, the process did occur because in accordance with the standing orders, while it is a committee of the whole house and all house members are entitled to attend, the committee's quorum is only 5 members. And the house does not recognize, in this sense, opposition nor government, just a committee of the whole house. So any percentage of the 5 can make up the quorum to host the finance committee meeting.
All right. Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, the parliament does not recognize any political party.
Definitely.
When you're in the house, you are a member of parliament.
Definitely.
Contributing towards the upliftment of the nation.
Correct. You
They don't
represent your
care about
constituents.
NNP, they don't care about
that's correct.
NDC,
Correct.
GULP, no political
political
party, not recognized.
Definitely.
You're here to do the people's business.
Definitely.
And you must show up when a request is made of you.
Definitely.
But don't you think that there could be in the future some amendments to this regulation,
Well,
to the standing order?
It's a conversation I believe could be had without me getting involved in determining what position will be taken. The leader of government business certainly would have the prerogative to lead in that direction. But we have always been amenable to changes within the standing orders to accommodate, in a sense, a more modern environment for debates, discussions, and bipartisanship at the level of parliament. So it's something that we, on the government side, is prepared to discuss without me saying yoni.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I've noticed over the past many years what has, occurred is members on the other side getting documents the night before the meeting.
Correct.
And all sorts of things like that. Even Tobias Clement.
Well, correct. It has been far worse. Look, I served in the Senate, so I know where that is coming from. In fact, this is a more better managed parliament that I have seen in terms of access to the information. Now, what was done, the leader of government business in the lower house, Terry, and I want to say this to the public because he didn't really allude to that. In a spirit of ensuring that even the opposition would be informed ahead of time where the government is going, how we see plans setting up, we sent out a year-long agenda with tentative dates, not any agreements to dates. So the 17th, for example, to which the opposition speaks about, was a date that was always known to be tentative, but spoke to where and when the government was expected to hold particular, or rather the parliament was expected to hold particular meetings, committee meetings, etc. So that list was sent out. It was not a case, and it was tentative. So it was not a case that you're saying for a fact, this is the date, that wasn't the case. So when the change from that original document occurs, you only use it as reference so that you can prepare yourself, but you can't use it as the actual fact. And in this sense, as we said, the notice was sent out prior, 7 days in advance, right? Way more than the 48 hours minimum. So there was still no question of not being in the loop and not understanding, etc. The fact of the matter is, this is something that I understand to be customary. This is something that this administration has done, which is to make parliament a bit more predictable, both for the opposition and government, so that we can plan ahead whenever we do stuff, but is always easily subjected to change because it's not set in stone. And these were tentative dates. We were told so from day one.
But it is the prerogative and the right of the cabinet and the leader of government business through the prime minister to set the date.
Correct.
And generally, the opposition would have to comply appropriately.
Correct.
Granted, maybe in the new dispensation, it may be better to have some sort of internal dialogue, etc., etc. But the same birthday gentleman you spoke about had 23 years to fix these things.
And it was never fixed.
It was never fixed.
I can give you a practical...
And it was always manipulated.
Of course. And I can give you a practical example. So essentially what the public must know is that the date had to be shifted because the government, particularly the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, was traveling. And therefore...
And that was to the CARICOM summit in Saudi Arabia.
In Saudi Arabia. And this is something that was not predicted prior. But that's one. Two, this is not a case to say that if they were not there, the meeting couldn't go on. But it was to say that they are prepared to do their political duty, which is to represent their constituents at the Finance Committee meeting, which they are obligated to do. So they took the time to reshuffle. And in this instance, when the excuse was given from the opposition, no practical excuses with dates, reasons, issues was stated. It's just that I can't make it. And up until the morning of the Finance Committee meeting, in speaking to the Deputy Speaker, she indicated that 3 members will attend. So I was a bit baffled when I heard, well, we had to boycott because we didn't get thing. And so clearly it was a big setup. And I think the public should see through that. And let's not waste our time, Terry, on that, because clearly it is a sham.
Well, I trust that the public understands clearly, 1, the importance of the Finance Committee meeting, and 2, the fact that even if one member has an excuse and can't make it, does not justify every member not being able to make it.
Definitely.
So it's most unfortunate that the Parliament was insulted in that manner.
Definitely.
So let us move on. The recent discourse by Prime Minister Mitchell, political leader Mitchell, in St. Lucia seemed to have caused some uproar in St. Lucia, even today. As a matter of fact, former Prime Minister Alan Chastanet was on another program, and I tried zooming into it and should have been on it in order to ask him a particular question. Whether if the statements made by political leader Deacon Mitchell at a political forum in St. Lucia, whether if these statements were untrue. And we do have the statement made by political leader and Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. We will get that. We will get to that in a short while. But what is your feeling on the statement made by Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell in St. Lucia?
Well, my own feeling is that there is just a big blow up of the issue, which clearly is something that ordinarily occurs. Prime Minister was representing the NDC, even though he serves as Prime Minister of Grenada, was representing the NDC in a sister party convention. And the statement essentially would not prevent anyone from running for office because he, in this instance, falls within the Commonwealth. And therefore, the statement is a truthful statement because that is the fact. And the point is, this is just ordinary political pick-on. I have heard comments by reputable individuals saying that we are interfering in internal affairs. That could never be further from the truth because this statement, in and of itself, was made at a political platform, speaks to the usual political pick-on that Grenada is no stranger of. And the more interesting thing out of it is that when you hear some of the louder voices around the matter, and you look, you see that it's the opposition sister party, and therefore they see the whole question of brotherhood in the fight, to try to use it now as some means to gain some unnecessary attention or cry, trouble, sympathy, that sort of thing. But this is politics. And therefore, Terry, I can tell you this statement is absolutely nothing and will do nothing, because as I said earlier on, it cannot prevent the individual in question from running for office. It is only meant to throw the political ping-pong, which anybody will do. JLP representative came here last election. They made statements. It's well known that other parties, other political parties, sister parties in the region, normally time and time will attend conventions, will do so. But they're not doing it only in their capacity as prime ministers, those who are the sitting prime ministers, but more so of the political leader of their sister party. Okay. And that's just the essence of it. It wasn't meant to prevent anyone and will not prevent anyone. That is the fact.
Well, yeah, I mean, to put it in its proper perspective, the political leader and Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell went to St. Lucia in his capacity as political leader of the National Democratic Congress.
That's correct.
To address the SLP support base and party in St. Lucia at their convention. Conventions are usually in-house private matters. So when he spoke, he was not, in fact, addressing the nation of St. Lucia.
Precisely.
He was addressing a political party of the administration in office, the St. Lucia Labour Party. And this is general throughout the Caribbean and elsewhere. You invite presenters, and naturally you would expect them to speak in your favor.
Of course.
So the question I wanted to ask former Prime Minister Alan Chastanet, who is the honorable member of the opposition in St. Lucia, were the statements uttered by political leader Deacon Mitchell incorrect? And the statement was, okay, to the point that he was born in Martinique, lived in Canada for a very long time, and Prime Minister, political leader, essentially you were just saying to the party, make sure you all vote a St. Lucian. Political pick-on. But this thing seemed to have taken on an energy all by itself.
Well, as I said, you have to look at who is promoting the quote-unquote energy out of this matter. Well, it's a non-issue, and it wouldn't change the price of anything. It wouldn't prevent anyone from running, whether or not they will.
But then again, when you are in the dumps, you will catch at anything.
Don't go there.
Don't go there. You will catch at anything whatsoever. It is most unfortunate, but we extend to our brothers and sisters in St. Lucia that this was a private statement made in a private setting to a private grouping in St. Lucia. And we don't see any big issue out of it. It happens all over the Caribbean all the time.
Well,
so don't take it personal.
Well, just to be clear, the NDC and the SLP have political relations. We are sister parties, but we certainly maintain diplomatic relations on a national level from Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique to St. Lucia. And we continue to maintain good, cordial relations from that end. The statements made had no bearing to prevent anyone and is not intended to cause any uproar other than one of a political nature, which is simply because it speaks to what was the rallying cry of the St. Lucia Labour Party, which propelled them towards victory in the last election in St. Lucia. We have not and will not interfere in the internal affairs of any other country. And by making such a statement, being invited on a political platform at a convention has not done so.
But in addition to which, even if the Honorable Alan Chastanet was born in Canada, Canada is part of the Commonwealth, and our laws recognize members of the Commonwealth to hold a public office in Grenada and several other CARICOM nations. So I don't see the issue and the problem, except one feels guilty about something. I don't know. For the benefit of those who didn't hear the political leader's statement, maybe we can share this with our listeners so they can evaluate the situation once and for all and realize that there was absolutely no intent whatsoever to disrespect the St. Lucian people.
No.
No intent whatsoever to say to an individual whose name was not called
Right.
that he is prevented from running as political leader in St. Lucia.
Correct.
So, as you call it, political pick-on.
Usual.
Let's see if we can get this clip here at this time.
If this was a rally, I would say the whole place red. The whole place. The whole place. Good. Arouge. Your honorable MP said if I came here, I'd get more energy. So, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you this evening. I want to start by recognizing the President of the Senate, Ms. Alvina Reynolds, the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Mr. Claudius Francis, Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps who are here with us this evening, distinguished delegates to this, the St. Lucia Labour Party annual conference. And delegates, these conferences are about you. So I want to ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for the energy, the passion, and the love that I felt when I walked in here, and the love that you no doubt have for the leadership of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Chairman of the St. Lucia Labour Party, the Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste. First Deputy Political Leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Hilaire. And let me join in wishing you a happy who you're putting into office. But I chose, when the time comes, make sure that it's St. Lucians who you're putting into office. Make sure that it's people who like the Caribbean, who like Caribbean institutions, who are proud of our culture and of our heritage. Because that is what we have, St. Lucianness. And that is what you need to embrace to make sure. Precisely. So it is important for us to appreciate that we are living at a pivotal time in history.
Welcome back. Well, I trust that you heard the salient point there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that statement?
Yeah, well, essentially, again, it's political pick-on, but the overarching point is to say that when you vote the St. Lucia Labour Party, riling up the troops, remember to vote for St. Lucia. I don't see the issue with that.
I don't see the issue with that at all.
I don't see the issue. I could recall many years ago, one individual who is now sitting in the opposition chambers was harassed for having citizenship in another country.
Yeah.
And
Canada.
I'm saying, and I'm saying it's political pick-on. He still was allowed to run in the election.
Mm-hmm.
So there is absolutely nothing that will prevent him or her outside of trying to get or gain political sympathy over the matter for the statements. The statements are not derogatory. Compare that to what was made at a birthday celebration about individuals. I'm saying that sometimes we ought to be fair, and certainly you hear the government riling up about some of these statements because, quite frankly, you know, freedom of expression. I mean, while you expect people to be responsible, those who hold authority, but it's freedom of expression, and there's absolutely nothing in that to say that the individual could be prevented. So that's not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, finally, I would say that, yeah, I mean, that statement does not constitute interference in the affairs of St. Lucia.
I mean, come on, man.
It was held and it was stated at a private convention of the St. Lucia Labour Party.
Correct.
And therefore, these are in-house matters. No one should feel offended. But even if they did, we extend our concern that they are disturbed over it, but it was never intended to be that way. And let us all, as Caribbean people, embrace what politics speaks to in the Caribbean. Is about picong, giving one another. At the end of the day, everyone happy.
No love
lost.
Yeah,
so our brothers and sisters in St. Lucia who somehow felt offended over this matter, please do not feel this way. It was never intended to be this way in your hearts. The heart of the NDC is always pure and just, and therefore we embrace all our brothers and sisters in St. Lucia and encourage you to continue with the struggle of Caribbean interests in the region and internationally. That's the fight that we need to embrace. That's the fight that we need to take. Bringing benefits to the people of the Caribbean together. Just like how CARICOM was in Saudi Arabia. To seek opportunities for the Caribbean.
First of its kind.
That's first of its kind. That's the kind of initiative that we need to embrace as Caribbean leaders in making sure that this benefit or these benefits come to the Caribbean.
Definitely.
It was really terrific indeed. And imagine that was the meeting that our opposition was trying to say, well, no, you can't go on that trip because, this date was set and so forth, or we had proposed this date, etc., etc.
Just to undermine, man, usual.
Anyhow, let us hear about what is happening in your constituency these days.
Yeah. Well, first off, let me acknowledge the passing of a senior in the community of Vendom. That is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Joseph. He was the father of Jason Joseph, the young man who was brutally murdered recently, earlier on this year, in the community of Vendom. He passed, was battling cancer, unfortunately, Terry, and he passed. So I want to extend condolences to his wife, his daughter, and all the other family members and friends in the village of Vendom, and to say that I empathize. In fact, we were able to start a major construction project that would save their land. And I know that this was something he was very worried about, was a farmer. And in his passing, I am sure that he may still find satisfaction that at least a project started and will be completed and will prevent the loss of his property over time. So on behalf of myself, my family, and the NDC community in St. George Northeast, I extend condolences to the Joseph family of Vendom and on the passing of Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, well, that's great. And of course, all those whom have passed over the recent time, we extend our condolence to their families.
Definitely.
The constituency, how is your constituency work going?
No, well, we're progressing nicely in terms of our agenda. I think from a construction point, this is the most construction work that I have seen going on in St. George Northeast and know of in a particular period, and such a short period. That's one. But two, we do have some challenges here and there that we really need to work on. One such challenge, I am certain that it's out already in the public, is the construction or completion of a bus shed at Mongi, my particular community where I reside, which seem to be causing some unnecessary contention. The matter is at the hands of the authorities. The Ministry of Lands, the Physical Planning has already been informed. Many people would be passing in that area and see the erection of a fence. There were no permissions given by Physical Planning to erect that fence, and therefore that fence will have to be broken down. And that will be done so in the coming days. But that aside, it really speaks to the issue of development. That particular road was broken for over 20 years, Terry, and it was falling into the St. John River adjacent. The government prior did the work in 2022 as a hurry-scurry towards the election, didn't complete all of the necessary work. And certainly when we came in, our intention was to complete this project to make sure that the community is safer and everybody can benefit. One such benefit had to do with the construction of a bus shed. And so far, we have started the construction of the bus shed and was unilaterally stopped by individuals purporting to be of the estate of an owner. For my own reasons, I am not engaging in calling anyone because I have no documentation to suggest that any individual who have done this work owns the property. But in any event, as Member of Parliament, I am totally offended by this unilateral attempt by private individuals to not see the bigger picture and allow the public interest to proceed. In fact, this heckling and unwarranted attempt to fence a strip of property which cannot be used for anything outside of a bus shed is, I am a bit baffled by it. And therefore, I'm saying the only solution now is to have that fence removed. And second, is for the individuals purporting to ownership of the property to come to the table and discuss. The method that is being used is simply a bully tactic, one which we will not accept. And I am calling on the family representatives who is purporting to be the owners of the property to do what is just in the interests of the public and that community, Monge. Monge Terry is a peaceful village and has always been known for its peace and tranquility. We don't get involved in this kind of behavior, and therefore disputes with land and all these other things are something that we believe should be handled through the legal channels. And if there is any indication that this belongs to private owners, the government of the day is prepared to acquire the property in the public interest. This was Broken Road, which fell into the river and was reclaimed by the government of Grenada, the previous administration, and we are merely just completing the project to construct the bus shed. And so I am totally offended by this attempt to stop the building of the bus shed, and I call on the individuals involved to cease and you do the right thing and come to the table. As I said, this matter has been taken to the legal route, to Ministry of Lands and the Planning Authority, and will be dealt with in the coming days.
Well, it's unfortunate that this has occurred. I mean, the roadway, government owns a portion of land which is referred to as the verge, 6 feet. So you're saying that the bus shed is just beyond 6 feet?
Well, it's behind that, but the fence that was recently erected is breach of that specific mark. And therefore, no permission was granted to erect the fence. The fence is an attempt to stop the construction of the bus shed so that this claim that the property is owned by a particular individual and therefore they didn't give any permission to construct a bus shed. But, you know, there are laws. As I said, this will be dealt with at the legal level. The only reason I didn't go and break down the fence is because I'm the Member of Parliament. But definitely it's offensive.
We don't want you to do that.
Yes. It's offensive to the people in the community, and it speaks to the old way of doing things, which I am not prepared to engage in. Any dispute with land, certainly involving government, there is a channel to have a conversation. There is no need for the aggression, and quite unfortunate so, it has brought a serious measure of upset to residents in the area, and they are calling for me to protest and break down the fence. I'm saying that it does not warrant that, and what we need to have is a peaceful discussion whether or not there is any truth, and look at it from a legal standpoint, solve the problem for all parties interested so that the community can benefit.
Absolutely so indeed. Well, time has certainly caught up with us. Any parting words you'd like to share?
Yes, definitely. We have the 50th independence coming up. It has already been launched, Grenada 50. We are looking forward, one people, oneness, Grenadianism, etc. Looking forward to that. I think the song is one of the biggest.
And all over the region.
All over. And we certainly look forward to that. Terry, cricket is upcoming. T20 on December 14th and the 16th. The public will hear more in the coming weeks on it. International cricket, West Indies versus England. And we look forward to celebrating character. So, Merry Christmas if I don't appear on the program again, or season's greetings rather.
Yes,
right? And we look forward.
Well, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure having you on the Heartbeat today, and maybe let's try to do it again before Christmas, because I realize there's a lot happening.
If I get the time, you know, we have to distribute the toys, we have to do all the other things. So
Absolutely,
definitely.
but we'll try and find some time.
No problem.
Thank you very much, and thank all of you who joined the Heartbeat today, and see you again next Sunday. Do have a great Sunday afternoon. Goodbye.